Welcome to Resource Thursday with Solutions Granted. I'm your host, Paco LeBron. This is the place to learn how to run your IT service business. Whether you're a one-person shop or leading a team for the journey, this is the place for you. Let me go ahead and introduce my co-host. We have none other than Rick Smith over at Renactus Technology. Rick, how are you today?
Doing good today, Paco. How's everybody going?
Tired than a son of a gun, but I like what I like to say, better than good, better than most. But we're gonna keep this train moving. And I'd love to welcome our guest for the first time here, but those that may have seen him in other circles and over at our previous TechCon, that is none other than Michael Crean from Solutions Granted. Michael, how are you today?
Morning, gentlemen. Doing great. How are you?
Can't complain because no one's gonna listen.
That's the part. You could, but nobody's going to listen.
Nobody's going to
listen. But before we go into Michael's journey and what Solutions Granted is all about, I want to talk about my favorite thing, and that is Techcon Unplugged. Techcon Unplugged is back in Chicago, September 16th to the 18th. Well, I can't talk this morning, at the Hilton Rosemont Chicago O'Hare. There you will learn from other like-minded business owners in panels and breakout sessions. You're going to get key takeaways from partners and vendors in the space that are really trying to talk about what's relevant right now, and experience that one-to-one hallway conversations where we've been told the magic happens. Tickets are $299, but you can take advantage of the early bird price of $199 until the end of this month. April 1st is when this early bird pricing will end, and it will go back to full price. So head over to techconunplugged.com and go ahead and get your tickets. All right. So, Michael, really appreciate you taking the time this morning to talk with us and just know a little bit more about you and more about Solutions Granted. But why don't you go ahead and give us an intro, kind of about really what's your origin story? How did you come to the space, and how did you found Solutions Granted?
Well, I've always referred to this as my story of dumb luck. Never in a million years did I think I would be owning a company, running a company, founding a company. My dad would say that he thought that I always had the entrepreneurial spirit, and I thought I was just trying to make a little cash because I didn't like having but a couple coins in my pocket. I wanted a few more than I did. So I was in the military for 9 years, loved what I was doing, made a decision to get out. You're right at that edge of you go over 10, you're halfway to retirement, you might as well carry through. Decided to get out. Thought I was going to do something a little bit different with my life, and didn't quite work out. Became a government contractor. Strangest interview of my entire life. I think I'm about 5 minutes into the interview, and they're asking me if I ever played golf or if I play golf. No idea what I'm doing. I mean, obviously, everything that I'd done in the military is very regimented up to that point, and very kind of, step. Found out that I didn't like the government contracting work as much as I thought I would, and went out into the commercial space right in around the time where the dot-com failure started to happen. And at 30, 31 years old, found myself on unemployment, was just mad at the world. One of my friends called me and said, "Hey, would you build some computers and design a network for us?" And the obvious answer was, "Yeah, I don't have much going on, so why not?" One of the dot-coms that I had worked for, the VCs there that had gone under, said, "Hey, our full-time IT guy is leaving. Would you go ahead and come do this part-time for us?" And the obvious answer was yes. So as time kept going on, and then one of the VC guys said, "Hey, I got a buddy of mine who owns this high-end textile cleaning company." And all of a sudden, I've got 3 clients. I have no idea what I'm doing, but I'm just kind of picking it up and putting it down and moving one step at a time. Called my mom, was like, I think I'm running a business. I don't know what I'm doing, but I think I'm doing this. That was 21 years ago. And it's just kind of continued to move. I mean, we've gone back to being a VAR, being a government contractor, having a facility clearance, being an MSP, being a security focused MSP, to being what they classify as a master managed security services provider today. Super fancy way of saying we're an MSSP for the channel. That's all it really means. Doesn't mean we're really good at it. I mean, I think we are, but that master title doesn't make us good. I think it's just how we decide to go to market and taking care of MSPs instead of going direct. So yeah, never in my wildest dreams did I think I'd be here today.
Very cool. Very cool. No, yeah. I mean, I share a similar experience as you. Like, I would have never thought I would have been a business owner. I think that I thought I was going to be in corporate for X amount of years, get the gold watch, call it a day, which is kind of unheard of nowadays, but that was the thought back in the day. And yeah, I got bit with that entrepreneurial spirit, helping out a buddy with his IT and printing company, ended up venturing on my own. And then, like you said, just really, that's the best way to say is dumb luck, just kind of just fumbling through until I kind of figured it out. And even then, I don't even think I figured it out all the way, because you're always learning a lot of things. So it's definitely been a great journey for on this side. So I can definitely relate. Rick, what about you? What's your deal? You always had that entrepreneurial spirit.
It's pretty much the same. I think, and if I'm correct, there's a book called The Accidental Entrepreneur, and that's exactly what the story is. You know, you start, you think, I guess, as a kid, you're focused on quote unquote the American dream, right? Get a job, get married, have a couple of kids, buy a house, 2 cars, and you work at your job for 30 years, retire, and live happily ever after. And things come up, I don't know, you say roadblocks or detours get in there, and you end up where you are. And now we are, we're all in that same boat of, hey, I own a business, and now I got to figure out how to run it and be successful and do my job too.
And manage people.
Pretty much the same, right? And manage people.
Yeah, that's the whole new endeavor I'm dealing with right now for the past 2 years, and that's a whole nother animal for sure.
I feel very fortunate. I got a lot of really good counseling and leadership training in the military, so I felt somewhat prepared. Not for some of the maybe new things that I'm hearing today as they come about, and some of the entitlement that comes around, because I don't think that entitlement piece was something that it wasn't a part of me. My mom and dad and aunts and uncles and grandparents all worked for General Motors, and I honestly never heard them complain. They just went to work, they did their job, and if they complained, they did it in a way that it never affected my brother and I.
Yeah. Side note. So I actually had this same conversation yesterday with a group of friends and people. And we were talking about how that entitlement in some generations are, is that viewed as bad or good? And then for those that, like for myself, I've only been known to do the job, work through, put in the long hours, your salary. That means you don't have a set amount of hours. You just do what to get the job done. And so the question was, do you feel that was a disservice to you, not having been educated to have, like, there should be limitations or there should be whatever. So it was an interesting conversation all around on hearing both sides, but I'm kind of with you where it's taken some time to adjust on the entitlement that's come along, but some reasons are good. Some others, you just can't assume, just because you did X, Y, Z and you're going to get an automatic in, like you got to put in
I don't know,
work.
Paco.
But
I think
anyway.
we need to have a conversation on those. Some reasons are good, because I'm still struggling to find them.
When I say some, there's very few, but we'll keep it going. But yeah, so Michael, so how, when you talk, obviously you said you kind of got into this being a master MSSP. Talk through us on what that really means. What is solutions granted all about? Because I know when I first found you in ASCII, I saw the great, cool Spartan warrior on the backdrop, but I didn't really know what solutions granted could do for me as an MSP. Can you share a little bit about how solutions granted helps out MSPs or IT service providers, either with improving time, money, or even just improving their services nowadays?
Sure, absolutely. So I think, the one thing is that, as we all know, this IT field has many different paths. Like, you could be on the software side, you could be on the hardware side, you could be on the security side. There's just so many different things that you can do. And honestly, I feel that MSPs, like yourself and like Rick, I think you guys really have the harder job. Your clients expect you to be a master of everything. They're not looking for the I don't knows. They're looking for that affirmative, yes, I can fix this. Yes, I can deliver that. And yes, I can do this. And they're always wanting the answer of yes. And that's really tough. I heard a really smart guy one time say, cybersecurity is one of those things you don't dabble in. You either do it or you don't. And if you don't, find the alignment with somebody who does. And as we continue to evolve in the organization, it was around 2010, 2011 where we got more security focused. What we started to see is that the ideas that most MSPs had is like, hey, I've put in a firewall, I've configured it to the best of my abilities, I've given you some antivirus. And that was a lot of the extent of what MSPs felt comfortable doing. And that's also what they felt was just the right thing to do. As we started to engage and we started to discover, there's some other basics that kind of go along with that. It's like putting the ADT sign in your front yard. If you're not hooked up to the call center, it keeps the honest person honest. Unfortunately, that's not what we deal with today. It's not about the honest person being honest. And so what we're bringing to the table, it's that kind of that Spartan idea that we are going to be that front line. We are going to be the protector of the protectors. We're going to defend you so that you don't have to defend your clients, so that you don't have to be the subject matter experts, so that we can help come in. We can do the monitoring. I mean, I've done some really dumb things in my life. I think I've done some smart things in my life, but the most expensive thing I've ever done in my life was build this security operations center. I mean, it has been a lot. It's a labor of love. I think at the end of the day, you love to hate it, and some days you love it. But it's, building that thing where it's not just about the technology. And that's what we really try to help MSPs with. We've all heard that comment about people, process, and technology. And it starts with the people. And having a 24/7 security operations center that is fully eyes on glass, where there's live people looking and threat hunting and reviewing and auditing and verifying and doing all of that work, that becomes very expensive. It becomes very labor intensive. And most MSPs, one, don't have the time, and two, don't have the money to hire all of the employees and then build out all the infrastructure that it takes. So all of that is there for MSPs with us. We've already got it done. And the one thing that we try to make that's easier than easy. So here's what I've hated. I have a great appreciation for attorneys. I know their value and I know why we need them. What I really hate is I hate where it becomes overcomplicated and that you've got some contract in front of you that somebody that has that law degree that has passed that bar that wrote this, and there isn't a chance in the world I'm going to understand it. So we try to simplify this. We try to make it easy. We do everything in a month-to-month agreement. My idea behind this is like, as an MSP, I wish somebody would have cut me a break. I wish somebody would have said to me, it's like, hey, to do business with me, sign this 3-year commit and then come and do business with me. But for 3 years, you're stuck. Whether I'm good, whether I'm bad, we're going to fight over this piece of paper. And so that was one key differentiator that we wanted to make sure we brought to this channel, is that everything we do is month to month, and there's no annual commits and there's no minimums. I mean, we have legitimately had an MSP come into us that was a startup at all of 5 endpoints. And that's all they had. It's like, come on, we're coming for the ride, because who knows what you'll be in the next 3 to 5 years.
Yeah. No, that's great, because it's so important to understand it. It's kind of like what we've talked about here is like, you never know the strength of a nimble MSP or an IT service provider, whether they're one person, part-time, going through. I mean, I could just talk about my journey where I was part-time for, 2013. So for 4 years, close to 4 years, and then went jump full time, then dabbled, try to figure out what I was going to do. And I didn't get my stride until probably the last 3 years. Right. And so for someone to, be a partner like that, that's really what we try to advertise is, or try to harp on, is it's really a two-way street, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like there are many of my colleagues that will be very cheap. And I try to explain that you don't want to be cheap. You can be frugal, but don't be cheap, right? And because you get into trouble that way, and especially in that mindset. And that was a mindset I had too, in early on. But until you realize the value and started kind of outgrow it. But the ability of lifting that barrier to get what you need to do, especially if this is something you feel is a need for your own practice. I spoke to a buddy of mine probably a couple of weeks ago, and as a shameless plug, I did throw your company's name to him to say, like, look, like, you've been a break fix guy all these years, and you are now starting to get more clients, small business clients. You're great at the networking. You're figuring it out, but like, you just can't hope cybersecurity is going to work, right? Like, you just can't, like, and he has no desire to immerse himself all in, right? So I was like, you gotta find someone to do it for you, right? And then that's when your name came up as far as the, solutions granted and so forth. But exactly like you just said, is like, if you're thinking about just dabbling, or you just want nothing to do with it, but you feel like you still want to continue this journey for you got to figure it out and align yourself with someone, and kind of go from there. But really going into kind of like improving services, right, with solutions granted, what is it that you all are helping other MSPs with? I know we talked about cybersecurity as a whole, but are you breaking this down to a particular, like maybe a NIST framework where there's different areas that you want to make sure you cover, or is it the particular tools that you're offering that help alleviate some of that worry or frustration with cybersecurity?
Well, I think first and foremost, it starts with education. It's what is it they say? Every heart surgeon is a doctor, but not every doctor is a heart surgeon. And
Hmm.
so, being a cybersecurity, and I hate this title, but it's something that I get referred to as a subject matter expert. I feel like it just makes me an absolute target. But I think a lot of what we have to do in the starting of a journey with any MSP is collaboration through education. We really have to understand where they're at. There's lots of great technologies out there. There's lots of great people out there. There's lots of great processes. And so when we start with anybody, it's really just taking that time to sit back and take it all in. What are you doing? How are you doing it? And most importantly, where I like to start is, what do you like about what you're doing today? I hate to always start with and you see a lot of salespeople do this, but what is it that you don't like? Well, man, then for me, it turns the conversation negative, and it almost turns into, bitching and griping and mumbling and just not happy about it. What I
Yeah.
want to hear is, where are you happy with the decisions that you've made? What are you doing with them? And how do we potentially take that investment of where you're at and maybe ratchet it up a little bit? And sometimes it's just through education, sometimes it's through collaboration, sometimes it's through consulting, or sometimes it's taking what we see most often is, hey, so for instance, take Sentinel One. Sentinel One is an amazing technology. I've got a lot of respect for what they've done, how they've done it in the industry, but you see a lot of MSPs that buy the technology. But what do they have? They have no monitoring around that. They have no
Mhm.
alerting around that. So something starts knocking on the door at 2 a.m. on a Tuesday, and you've bought this amazing technology and it's stopping it. Okay, that's great. That's fantastic. But what does it mean? Is there something more behind the knock? Is there something else that's about to come? And if you don't have anybody watching it or somebody that's trained that can see that and understand where these early indicators of compromise are coming from, well, then all you've got is the technology. You don't have the people and you don't have the process. So a lot about what we're doing is, it's kind of unconventional because we're not trying to put everybody into our box. Now, obviously, if you've got Sentinel One and you don't have any of the monitoring, well, then I'm sure going to try to tell you why you should come over to the dark side with us and use the silence offering that we have and how our MDR is going to be different. But again, that's about that education at the same time, because we're also going to do the 24/7 SOC. We're also going to do the threat hunting. We're also going to do the remediation. And so it's never an easy conversation to have, because we got to figure out where you are and where you want to go and how we get you there.
Yeah. Rick, I know that you are now just kind of establishing having employees and getting into your business, but I remember this was a big concern for you at the time on trying to make sure that you had additional eyes, right, to figure out what's going on and protection. Kind of walk us through on just kind of the worries that you had and what you did decide to kind of leverage and make you hopefully go to sleep at night a little bit better.
Well, it's excuse me, twofold. It's always this thing as a business owner. You go to sleep at night, and your one fear is you wake up and all hell's broke loose somewhere, and you don't know about it till 6, 7 in the morning when you wake up, and this has happened at 2 a.m. or
Right.
1 a.m. And a lot of times the damage is done at that point, right? So it was one of those things where I personally knew that I needed eyes on things that I couldn't do, things that I, don't need to spend my time doing per se. So it's what worked for me. And it's weird how I came to Solutions Granted probably in, I think, I made the decision like July, August, went through the whole proof of concept, and then actually met Mike at Techcon in
Hmm.
September. And I had just started my proof of concept, going through the process. So, it kind of worked. And something Mike said that it was in the back of my head. Now, what I just articulated about needing eyes, he actually said those words that stuck with me. So that was what was important. So as you know, as I'm growing, I still think it makes sense to have professional eyes, 24, eyes watching that. Somebody has my back. I'm paying for it. They someone I trust, a solution I trust. And I'm just gonna veer off a little bit. You and I have had this conversation plenty of times, Paco, about dealing with vendors, and they have a great product, have a great offering, but if their customer service sucks, it takes away everything. They drop from 100 to 40 really quick. So, my experience with Solutions Grant has been very good. So that keeps them high and keeps me at a high level of confidence of what I'm doing, and helping to protect my business.
Yeah, I mean, I think that, right. I think for those that wasn't at TechCon last year, did a disservice to them to not listen to Michael's presentation. But I think you'll make up for it if you attend any of the ASCII shows this year. I believe you're going to be at those as well, right, Michael?
We are. We're at all of them. We're also at MSP World this month.
There you go. So you have plenty of opportunity to go ahead and see. I mean, I think, and just kind of veering off a little bit, I think from our show that we had, Solutions Granted was one of the 2 breakout vendors at that show, right? Everyone talked about him. Everyone wanted to know more about it. Like, Michael knows his stuff and his team knows his stuff. And, it just goes to on just that, that attention to the craft, right? And that ability of knowing, like you said, it's just you love to love it or you love to hate it. It's just that love of being able to really get into it. Now, kind of with everything that's kind of going on nowadays, Michael, is there any and we had this talk before where do you feel that managed service providers, IT service providers are really getting in trouble with their cybersecurity? Because I think, like you just mentioned, everyone thinks that they don't have the right tools, right? And that's not the case. It seems like there's one blaring thing that always seems to happen from clients you've onboarded or just people you've talked to. What would you say that you've seen as kind of like the number one thing that just seems to be catching up or tripping up IT service providers?
So I go back to what I think are some of the basic fundamentals and I think we as an industry have maybe not done the best job of remembering what's important to do. It's those foundational pieces, no matter what it is in life. We were talking before we started. It's like, I love hockey. I'm a hockey coach. My son plays hockey. But you don't see kids just jumping on the ice and becoming the next Alex Ovechkin or Wayne Gretzky. There is all these fundamental pieces, and these fundamental pieces get practiced through their entire career and life of playing this game. And it's the same thing. There are things that were good. Once upon a day, we never gave the user administrative access to the machine, or we didn't give it to their account. Well, now it seems commonplace that we're constantly finding MSPs because the client is complaining, or it's just easier because they can install whatever they want to install. But then that creates much bigger problems. So not having good role-based access control, and even IT guys are the worst, not even the clients. I can't tell you how many times we've found an IT guy or an IT gal and their credentials have been compromised and there's been an incident that's taken place. And not only is it just their user account, but they're also a domain admin on their user account. And somehow they're also in the enterprise admin and the schema admin. It's like, wow, man, Microsoft's been saying for a decade, don't do this. And yet we do it because it just makes our life easier instead of having to put in another set of credentials.
Right.
MFA. One of those things that we all know is the right thing to do. Is it the end all be all? Absolutely not. Does it help? Absolutely. And, it's like going to your surgeon and saying, hey, here's the problem I've got. Surgeon identifies it. I can 100% fix this. And here's how we're going to do it. I don't like that. We're not doing that today. We're going to do this some other way. Well, when did you go to school to become a doctor? How many people have you cut? And so when your clients aren't allowing you to implement MFA because, it takes me too long. It took you 30 seconds? I'm sorry that 30 seconds of your life was so impactful to you that you couldn't see the value in it. But hold on, I'm the subject matter expert. And I know you shouldn't say this very often, and I've said it probably too many times in my life. Wait, you came to me, I didn't come to you. You do need my help. Now, if I'm hiring you for legal services, please tell me to shut my mouth and sit down and take care of business, because that is what I'm paying you for. So I think it's, making sure you're doing the fundamentals, make sure that they don't have administrative access, make sure that you've got MFA in place. Make sure that you're doing some of those things that we all know. Patch management, it doesn't just happen on its own. We can't just trust the systems. You got to trust but
Yeah.
verify. So there's those sides of what MSPs have a responsibility for, what us, me have the responsibility as being the MSSP, but there's also that client responsibility. And if all three of us aren't coming together for our responsibilities, them accepting the guidance, you doing the right thing, us doing the right thing and doing it together, any one of those break down, we fail together, unfortunately. And then it becomes finger pointing. And that doesn't help anybody. Now, there is a time and a place, and sometimes there's that moment of gross negligence, and we've seen it. We've seen some of those compromises. Colonial Pipeline, sorry, I'm not going to let you off the hook. Yes, that was gross negligence. You had an ex-employee's account that you didn't tombstone, you didn't delete, you didn't whatever, and there was no MFA, and we all suffered for it. I mean, if you live on the East Coast, I know I suffered from it. Gas prices went up, the stress that went with that, no gas at all. So, we really have to make sure that we're all doing our piece and not thinking that the technology is going to overcompensate for the lack of what you were supposed to do, because it doesn't really work that way. It just doesn't.
Yeah, I mean, it's all about the process, right? And really just making sure you have one established. Like, I can't tell you how many times, and gross negligence on my part. Like, we were retiring an old antivirus, and granted, it's not installed in anyone's machine. But when we went into the user for months, and we went into the user, an ex-employee was in there, right? That hadn't been installed. So it's like you got to make sure that you follow your process to the T, even down to systems that you probably were dabbling in at one point and forgot about, right? Like, you got to make sure you have those processes in place. I think is, when what you suffer from two things: one, what you don't know that you don't know, and then the other piece of just, as a business owner, you're flying so many different directions and so many routes, you're going to forget stuff. And that's the purpose of being able to have great people in those processes, so you're not your own worst enemy, because like you've said, there's probably so many things that have happened as incidents that could have been easily avoided.
I will tell you, if we see 8 or 9 a week, and that's about an average week with us, with the size that we've become and the number of MSPs and new people that are coming to us, of the 8 or 9 a week that we see, it is most weeks, all of them were completely unavoidable. There's just, they were avoidable. Sorry, not unavoidable.
Okay.
And it's through mistakes or carelessness or just not doing the right thing. There's occasionally the one that you run across that you're like, man, you have legitimately done everything you could possibly do, and I'm sorry, they got you, but you did a good job. Unfortunately, it just happened. That's that purposeful one, but it's just rare that we find those anymore. Most of them, one terrible one that we ran across last year, where an MSP had OpenRDP to the domain controller, the CIO's user account was the domain admin, was in the enterprise admin, and was in the schema admin, and they walked right through, no MFA. So all of these things, patch management was bad, no role-based access control, OpenRDP, no MFA, and then it's like, what were we supposed to do? It's like, I don't know. Let's play the silly game, because I feel like I'm about to waste my time by telling you all the things you've probably heard by 8,000 other people. And you're looking at me like you did it well, because you didn't. And that's unfortunate, but this is just the thing that we keep seeing. If we make it easy for the bad guys, it's just easy.
Yeah. And a little bit more on solutions granted. Not only do you help provide obviously best practices, but you do help leverage and leverage technology and tools that a managed service provider can either improve on their services or maybe practically just gut and replace, because they are just such much more better technology than they probably were using in the first place. Can you talk a little bit more on how does that process look like when they're looking to adopt a solution from you or multiple solutions from you?
Sure. So, the one thing that we try to make sure that we do is that we're kind of keeping our finger on the pulse of what's happening out there. Doesn't mean that we're getting distracted by the unicorn that runs in front of us, because in the security space and all of these people that are developing something new, there's lots of unicorns running around out there, or supposed unicorns as well. So, the things that we do is we're trying to make sure that, one, we're providing a technology stack that is backed by the people, that we do have that 24/7 SOC, and that we've got the processes in place, but not processes that we're just giving to you, but processes that we're adhering to. I think you had asked the question earlier, and it was something around frameworks or, something like that. And so, we as a company, to hold ourselves to a higher standard, we are NIST 800-171 compliant. We went down that methodology. I think a lot of partners struggle with what they should do, and we talk about those responsibilities and we talk about those frameworks. I think if you look at the CIS and if you look at IG1, if you look at those safeguards that are in IG1, it's just general cyber hygiene, and it's a fantastic place for anybody to start. And when you look at some of what we're doing, it talks about and I think the first control or the first safeguard in IG1 is just knowing the hardware. And we tell partners all the time, well, what are you doing? And most of them say, well, I'm not doing anything. Yes, you are. And they don't realize it. And so here it comes back to the education. Like, look, y'all are using RMM tools. And the RMM tool tells you about 90% of what you already got in the customer's environment. So you do know the hardware. And then you've got the other pieces of the switches and the firewalls and those other components. And then that second safeguard talks about software. Well, you're getting all of that from your RMM tool as well. So it's not fully complete just by the RMM tool, but it got you so close there, and you don't even think about some of the things that you're doing, that you're already walking down some of these places. And then you get into some of the others, like you start looking at, and I don't remember which one it was. Feel like, so it used to be Control 18, where it talks about log monitoring. It was Control 6. That's a lot where we come into play. It's not okay just to have a next-gen AV or an EDR, an antivirus on a machine, if you're not gathering all of those logs and parsing through them and then doing some of that hard work behind it. And that's what we offer. That's what a true MDR offering is. And that's kind of a cornerstone to who we are as an organization. We're all about our MDR for endpoint and MDR for cloud. And so that MDR for endpoint, it is bringing the people and the process and the technology, but it gives you the 24/7 SOC. It gives you the threat hunting. It also gives you remediation, so that, like it happens at that 2 a.m. on a Tuesday, Rick, something's going wrong, you are sleeping. And when your phone rings, it's not a sales call from us, something has gone on, but you already know that we've taken care of it and we've kind of squashed it. We've contained it. We've got it to a place where we've normalized the environment. It's not causing any additional problems. But what we're then doing next is we're going to take you through the steps of what we think you need to do and where we believe this came from, so that we can share in that responsibility. Because I tell people there's two sides of every incident. There's the cause and the effect. The cause is on you as the MSP. That cause is a weak username and password. It's no MFA. It's a patch. It's a bad firewall configuration. It's whatever it may be that got it happening. That's on you. And I can't really care about that. I can help you, but I can't care more than you care. But the effect of what that is, that's not on you. That's on us. And you can't care about that, because that's got to be my job and my responsibility, because y'all didn't hire me for my good looks or my magnetic personality. You hired us because we're good at what we're doing.
Another quick question for you, Michael, is with your offering, is it a kind of like all or nothing when they enroll with Solutions Granted, or can they absorb different pieces to supplement maybe what they have going on in their services?
Well, I'd love for it to be an all or nothing, because I think my stack is the best stack. But like I said, I can appreciate other people's stack. I've talked about SentinelOne a couple times, and you look at some companies out there like Highwire that does a managed service around SentinelOne, or you look at Continuum, ConnectWise, whatever we're calling them today, and their Fortify offering. If a partner comes in and says, hey, I've got this and I love it, cool. I see why you love it. I like what they're doing over there. Let's talk about something that you don't have. So it's definitely not an all or nothing. We want to fill the gaps. We hope through time that you find that, like Rick had said, you could go from this, you got 100, but the people and the personalities are tough and it's trying, and then it drops you to a 40. So we're hoping that we continue to bring that magnetic personality and those charming good looks, and you want to continue to do business with us. And then it makes it easier to have one hand to shake and maybe come over with more. But if you come with one and you stick with one and you love it, it's fine with us. I'm not pushing anybody to do anything other than what they want to do. I think it happens through time naturally.
Gotcha.
Yeah, one of the things I'm sorry to cut you. I was just one of the things I've loved is for me as a partner coming on, we talked about this in the beginning about minimums and, the process of, how many endpoints or whatever. I've loved the fact that I've been able to grow and introduce the process and the product to my client slowly. Like I've been able to just move it along slow, to get to a point where I'm at comfortable, where we're in the final stages now of moving everyone off of our old solution and on to the new. And that's to solutions granted. So that whole process, and whenever I have a question, I can call and somebody has an answer for me, which I think is great because, I go back to this. I think as a service provider myself, I can give my customers the best stack, give them all of the things that they need. I got but if they call me with a problem and they can't get an answer, my credibility is shot. So it doesn't matter all the things I do behind them. So that is, and I've learned as I'm growing, that is what's most important to me as a purchaser, is when something goes wrong, who can I call? Are they going to answer me, or am I going to get sent to email, or am I going to get told we'll get back to you within 24 hours? I called the bank yesterday to ask a simple question, and they told me it was a 2.5 hour wait. It frustrated me. I want to know about my money. I just have a simple question. Can't somebody just answer? And I use that analogy just because we talk about the things that are important to us. So I think
that's important, Rick. I think that's sometimes where MSPs get led astray. It's that shiny penny, it's that unicorn. They get enthralled by the technology, but they don't think about the people behind it. They don't think about the partnering. They don't think about the relationship. And to me, that's why we do what we do, because I think there's lots of other fantastic service providers out there, and they're doing very similar things to us. So we can differentiate ourselves by being there for you. My son loves this. There's an ad on the radio and it says, when the peanut butter hits the fan. And he knows what it means. I mean, he's 10, just about to be 11. And so that just makes him laugh. And so, yeah, when the peanut butter hits the fan, we're here. You're not going to get a hold of Corey, who is our vice president of threat operations. If it gets bad at 2 a.m. on a Tuesday, he will be woken up and he will come into it and he will fight and get it done with you.
Very cool. So we're going to round out the show here in a little bit, but I wanted to go ahead and dive into any lasting words or anything that we should know more about Solutions Granted, just what you bring to the table, any lasting words for the audience to just know more about you.
I don't know that we're very different than anybody else, minus the fact that we care. And when we say we care, we prove it. I don't think you'll find a partner out there that has ever called us in a moment of need that has been turned away. Even people that weren't partners with us, that they've had a client incident that was going on. We pick it up just like it was somebody who was already paying for the service. We're here, we're dedicated. And because it is month to month, if we're messing it up and we're not taking care of you, it's a quick and easy, you're gone and fired. I think that's important for everybody to understand. Don't get distracted by the next piece of technology that says it's going to fix it all, because nothing does. And look for a real partnership where some established responsibility is shared by all and not put on one. That's what I think is important.
And one thing I want you to know as well, when we were at ASCII in Chicago, I was with a buddy of mine there, and this is to go into why you care whether they're a partner or not. He came to you with a question about Google Workspace and spam filtering, and you're like, you know what, that's not what up, but hold on. And you literally walked away from your booth. You guided him. You went over to Mail Protector. You asked him a question.
Yeah.
He said, hey, he's your guy. Talk to him. For Google, if it's our stuff, definitely come back. So the fact you went out of your way to do that stuck with him so much that he's figuring out a way on what to do to reach out as well, because he was more smaller in his clientele at the time, but now as he's growing, so like that just tells on what you just said about how you guys care, whether you are a partner or not. So that has stuck with a lot of people that you probably didn't even think of. It was just a natural instinct to do.
It's just the right thing to do. I mean, somebody's got a problem and I don't think I can answer it, but I know who can. So, well, why wouldn't I? I mean, I think there's enough business out there for all of us that we don't have to be fighting with one another. And if we come together as a better, more responsible community, and we start sharing the information that we have with one another, and we start treating each other like we're really friends and not that we're enemies to one another because we happen to own different businesses, there's a lot of room out there for all of us. I think and it feels good to me. I mean, I can go home and sleep peacefully at night knowing that, I didn't make a couple bucks on that deal, but I helped somebody out.
Yeah. No, and that's great.
Remember it though.
Yep. No, that's great. Well, Michael, I really appreciate you taking the time to come on this morning, talk to us about Solutions Granted. For anyone who wants to know more about Solutions Granted, about your partner program, what's the best way for them to reach out?
Do not use a courier pigeon because those are not working for me. No smoke signals. Telegraph's not working either. You can go to our website, which is www.solutionsgranted.com. You could also send us an email. You could send it to sales@solutionsgranted.com. If you are a talker like me and you really don't like email and you just want to chat, pick up the phone and give us a call, 703-565-2395. And more than likely, if you ever send an email to me, you're probably going to get a phone call from me because I really just don't like email.
Very cool. Very cool. Rick, any lasting words from you?
Well, my thing. Well, Michael, first off, thank you again. Thanks for coming, and I appreciate the time you spent with us. I just wanted to give my usual end of the show spiel about the upcoming Techcon Unplugged. Again, just giving a shout out to everyone to say, hey, if you have any questions, suggestions, just reach out to us and let us know. Again, we are here trying to make this the best TechCon we've had and make it a great opportunity for everyone to come learn, take something back to your business and grow. So if there's anything we can do to make the show better for you guys, please reach out to us and let us know. That's Rick at MSP Unplugged or info at MSP Unplugged. And, we read everything and try to implement as much as we can or, make it work somehow. So I look forward to hearing from everyone. Please just reach out if you have any questions or suggestions.
Very cool. Well, again, everyone, really appreciate you tuning in. You can feel free to tune in every Tuesday and Thursday. You can watch the video podcast on youtube.com/MSP Unplugged or on facebook.com/MSP Unplugged. Like, subscribe, hit that notification button so you're notified whenever a new episode is available. You can also take us on the go with you on your favorite podcatcher app. We are on Amazon Music, Spotify, and on Apple Podcasts. Once again, thank you for listening, and we will see you next time on MSP Unplugged.